Part 1. The Invisible Struggle. Most people don't realize it, but they lose influence long before they lose arguments. It happens quietly, in conversations that feel normal, in moments where intentions are good, but something still goes wrong. There was a man who believed that being right was the same as being respected. He spoke clearly. He corrected facts. He pointed out mistakes before they became problems. And slowly, people stopped listening. Meetings became colder. Friends became distant. Even family conversations felt tense, as if everyone was walking carefully around him. He didn't understand why. From his perspective, he was only being honest, only being logical, only trying to help. What he couldn't see was something far more important than logic. People don't walk through life wanting to be corrected. They walk through life wanting to feel understood. Every time he corrected someone, even politely, even gently, something invisible happened. The other person didn't hear improvement. They heard judgment. They didn't feel helped. They felt exposed. And without meaning to, he made people defend themselves. That defense didn't always sound like anger. Sometimes it sounded like silence, sometimes like avoidance, sometimes like polite agreement followed by quiet resistance. This is how influence is lost. Not through cruelty, but through small, unnoticed moments where someone feels smaller than they were a second ago. The world is full of intelligent people who struggle socially, not because they lack kindness, but because they believe truth matters more than feelings. What they don't realize is that truth delivered without respect rarely changes anything. Long before people consider your ideas, they consider how you make them feel. And most people are fighting a silent battle to protect one thing above all else: their dignity. Part 2. The Quiet Power of Ego. Most conflicts don't begin with words. They begin with wounded pride. A woman once shared an idea during a team discussion. She spoke softly, unsure of herself, but hopeful. Before she finished, someone interrupted her and said, "That won't work. We tried it before." The sentence was short, not rude, not loud, but something shut down instantly. She didn't argue. She nodded. She stayed quiet for the rest of the meeting. Later, when asked why she hadn't contributed more, she smiled and said, "Oh, I didn't have anything important to add." But that wasn't true. Something important had been taken from her. Not her idea, her sense of value. Every human being carries an invisible sign that says, "I matter." When that sign is ignored or challenged, logic stops working. This is the mistake many people make without realizing it. They believe arguments are won by facts, by evidence, by being correct. But arguments are rarely about facts. They are about identity. When you prove someone wrong, you don't just correct a mistake. You threaten their self-image. And the human mind reacts the same way it would to physical danger. It defends. That defense can look like stubbornness, excuses, changing the subject, or simply deciding never to listen to you again. The strange truth is this: you can be completely right and still completely ineffective. People don't resist ideas, they resist feeling small. This is why shouting never convinces, why sarcasm backfires, why "I told you so" damages relationships. Each time someone feels their ego is under attack, they stop hearing your message and start protecting themselves. What if influence didn't require winning? What if the strongest position in a conversation was not dominance, but dignity? When you allow someone to save face, even when they're wrong, you give them something rare: respect. And respect opens doors that arguments never will. Part 3. What people are really hungry for. There is a quiet hunger that follows people everywhere. It sits beside them at dinner tables, walks with them into offices, lies awake with them at night. It is not hunger for food, or money, or success. It is the hunger to be seen. Most people don't feel unappreciated because they are failing. They feel unappreciated because no one notices their effort. A man once worked harder than anyone on his team. He came early, left late, fixed problems no one else wanted. When the project succeeded, the manager said, "Well, that's what you're paid for." The words were meant to be practical, professional, but something broke. The man didn't quit that day. He didn't complain. He didn't argue. He simply stopped caring. From that moment on, he did only what was required. Nothing more, nothing less. Criticism is loud. It announces itself. Appreciation is quiet and often forgotten. Yet appreciation does something criticism never can. It reaches inside a person and touches their sense of worth. Criticism tells someone what they did wrong. Appreciation tells them who they are becoming. And the human mind leans toward the image it is given. Tell someone they are careless long enough, and they will act careless. Show someone that their effort matters, and they will surprise you. This isn't flattery. People can sense fake praise immediately. It feels hollow, transactional. Real appreciation is specific, grounded, honest. It notices the unseen, the patience someone showed, the restraint they practiced, the courage it took to speak up. When people feel genuinely valued, they don't need to be pushed. They move on their own. This is why parents who only point out mistakes often raise children who hide their failures. This is why leaders who only criticize eventually lead no one. And this is why influence begins not with correction, but with recognition. People don't change to please you. They change to live up to the version of themselves you reflect back to them. And when you give that reflection with kindness, you don't just change behavior, you change direction. Part 4. The illusion of control. Most people believe they can persuade others by telling them what to do. They give advice freely. They offer solutions quickly. They explain what makes sense. And then they are confused when nothing changes. A father wonders why his son ignores his guidance. A manager wonders why instructions are followed only when watched. A friend wonders why their advice is never taken. The mistake is subtle. People do not like being directed. They like choosing. The human mind resists commands, even when they are logical, even when they are helpful. There was a man who struggled to get support for his ideas. Every time he spoke, he explained clearly what should happen next. He believed clarity would create action. Instead, people nodded and did nothing. One day, tired of pushing, he tried something different. Instead of telling, he asked, "What do you think would work best here? How would you handle this situation? What outcome matters most to you?" The change was immediate. People leaned forward. They spoke longer. They defended ideas, their ideas. And when action followed, it didn't feel forced. It felt chosen. This is the quiet truth few people understand. When someone feels ownership, they move mountains. When someone feels controlled, they resist even small steps. The man realized something uncomfortable. Many of his failures weren't due to poor ideas. They were due to stolen agency. He had taken away the most important thing people have, the feeling that they are deciding for themselves. Influence does not grow through instruction. It grows through invitation. When you allow someone to arrive at a conclusion on their own, they protect it. They nurture it. They act on it. This is why great leaders ask more than they tell. Why effective parents guide rather than command. Why persuasion works best when it feels invisible. The moment someone feels pushed, they push back. But when they feel heard, they walk forward willingly. Part 5. The Quiet Art of Influence. Most people believe influence looks like authority. A louder voice, a higher position, a stronger argument. But the most influential people rarely look powerful. They look patient. There was a woman who led a team without force, no threats, no pressure, no constant reminders. Yet people followed her willingly. When challenges arose, she didn't blame. She asked questions. When mistakes happened, she didn't accuse. She invited reflection. And when decisions were made, she allowed others to believe they had shaped them. This was not deception, it was respect. People supported outcomes they helped create. They defended choices they felt were theirs. And slowly, something remarkable happened. Conflict faded. Cooperation grew. Resistance softened. The woman understood something most never learn. You cannot push someone into believing, but you can walk beside them until they choose it themselves. When disagreements arose, she didn't say, "You're wrong." She said, "I may be mistaken. Let's look at this together." Those words did something powerful. They lowered defenses. They preserved dignity. They kept conversations alive. People felt safe around her, safe to speak, safe to disagree, safe to change their minds. And in that safety, influence flourished. Winning no longer meant defeating others. It meant reaching an understanding both sides could live with. This is the paradox of influence. The less you need to win, the more people align with you. The moment you stop trying to dominate, you begin to lead. Part 6. The change that stays. The most powerful changes rarely announce themselves. They arrive quietly, in conversations that feel lighter, in disagreements that don't escalate, in relationships that feel safer than before. The man who once needed to be right began to notice something. People spoke more openly around him. They disagreed without fear. They shared ideas without guarding them. He hadn't become quieter. He had become kinder. Not softer in conviction, softer in delivery. He no longer rushed to correct. He paused. He no longer fought to win. He listened. And in doing so, he gained something far more valuable than victory: trust. The woman at work who once stayed silent began speaking again. Not because she had been asked to, but because she felt safe enough to. The teams that once resisted change began suggesting improvements themselves. The relationships that once felt tense began to breathe. Nothing dramatic had changed. No speeches, no confrontations, only small shifts, a genuine interest in others, a willingness to see from their side, a habit of appreciation instead of judgment. Over time, these small shifts compounded. People remembered how they felt around you long after they forgot the words you used. They sought your presence, valued your opinion, trusted your intentions. This is the quiet reward of understanding people. Not control, not admiration, connection. Influence becomes natural when people feel respected. Leadership becomes effortless when people feel valued. And relationships deepen when no one feels the need to defend themselves. In the end, the secret was never about winning friends. It was about becoming the kind of person others felt safe standing beside. If this story stayed with you, if it made you pause, even quietly, then you may enjoy more stories like this. Subscribe to Thinkora Audio for timeless ideas, told slowly, without noise or pressure. And if you'd like to explore this book further, you'll find the audiobook and reading links in the description below.